the Cincinnati Bengals have a legitimate chance to make a playoff run. And one of the main factors is some Bengals are coming back from injury. We're going to be talking about all of that here today. First, about the chances for the playoffs, and then next, what the injuries could do for those chances. So first, let's just jump right into it on what Cincinnati has to do to make the playoffs in 2024. Let's jump right into it. First, all of this is coming from Yard Barker talking about the playoff chances, and like this article says, basically it's coming down to about 5 teams: Chargers, Broncos, Dolphins, Colts, and the Bengals for the last 2 spots in the playoffs for the AFC, because pretty much the Bills have already locked up their division. The Chiefs pretty much locked up their division. Either the Ravens or the Steelers is going to win the AFC North, which the Bengals are in. So that leaves 2 spots left for the rest of these 5 teams. Right now, it's looking like the Chargers and the Broncos are the front runners for those with a 7-4 record and a 7-5 record for the Chargers and the Broncos. The Dolphins and the Colts are main competition that the Bengals have to focus on. Dolphins are 5-6. The Colts are 5-7. The Bengals obviously 4-7. So what do the Cincinnati Bengals have to do? They have to win the rest of their games, pretty much. There's maybe a little wiggle room with 1 loss, but literally the last thing you can do. If you lose 2 more games, you're done. It's completely out. So Cincinnati has very slim chances of making it, but it's very possible. And so let's look at some of the remaining the remaining 6 games for the Cincinnati Bengals and see what they would have to do. Let's look. Ooh, wrong one. I'm not going there yet. But here we go. Let's pull it up here. I have it here. Anyway, so I'm going to switch to this one. Here we go. So you can see bigger. The Bengals' remaining schedule. It's kind of a mid-schedule. It's not one of the hardest schedules, but it's not one of the easiest schedules. So first, the Steelers this weekend are coming to Cincinnati. Then we go to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Then we go to Tennessee to take on the Titans. And then the Browns come to Cincinnati since we already played in Cleveland earlier in the season. Then the Broncos come into town. And then finally we wrap up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what I think the logical reason why we could win out is this. Besides the 2 Steelers games, we should win the rest of the games. The Cowboys have been struggling, we should beat them. The Tennessee Titans have been struggling, we should beat them. The Browns have been struggling, obviously now with Jameis Winston, they're getting better and better, like they just beat the Steelers in Cleveland, but we should beat them. Broncos, they have a great defense, but realistically, we should beat them. The 2 games I'm worried about are the Steelers. And what I'm thinking, right, listen, this is my head. The Steelers, if we can beat them this week, in Cincinnati, most likely, once we get to the last week of the regular season where we play Baltimore again in Baltimore, there will already be locks in the playoffs, right? So if we win the rest of those 5 games, right, and we have 1 more game, this game decides if we get in the playoffs or not, and against the Steelers. Most likely, the Steelers have already clinched a playoff spot. So what does that mean? They'll sit all of their starters anyways. So then we'll get our last win to backups in the NFL. That's the most likely scenario where Cincinnati wins out. We win against the Steelers this week, which is going to be really hard, I know, but it's in Cincinnati. We win against the Steelers this week, win out until the last week. The Steelers are locked to the playoffs already, so they sit everybody, just like the Browns did last year where they made the playoffs already. So they sit everybody, Steelers sit everybody, and then we beat them, we beat their backups, and get into the playoffs, depending on what the other teams, like we need the Chargers to lose a little bit, and we already played them, we lost to them. We play the Broncos, so we have to beat the Broncos. They're one of the teams we're fighting for the last 2 spots with, so we have to beat the Broncos. We need the Dolphins to lose a little bit more, and we need the Colts to lose a little bit more. But for Cincinnati, all we have to do, win out, and there's a good chance you're in. Not a good chance, but there's a chance that you're in. And I think what I described is the most likely scenario where Cincinnati gets in. We beat Pittsburgh this week, win out into the last week where the Steelers are already locked in the playoffs. They play their backups, and we beat the backups. And then we finish the season 10-7. Looking at the season right now, we're 4-7. If we can finish the season 10-7, that's a win. That's a win. And that's giving us a good chance to get into the playoffs. Because most likely the Broncos aren't going to win out. Most likely the Chargers aren't going to win out. Most likely the Dolphins aren't going to win out. And most likely the Colts aren't going to win out. So if the Cincinnati Bengals win out, that puts us in a prime chance to go into the playoffs. And that would mean we're going on a 6-game win streak, which means we're pretty hot going into the playoffs. And no one wants to play the Bengals in the playoffs, especially against Joe Burrow. But one of the main factors for this, like I said earlier, is the injuries. And yes, we have some major updates on the injuries. The main injuries and being that I'm going to be talking about is Orlando Brown Jr. and Sheldon Rankins. And I think one of the main reasons that could help us win the rest of these games are those two injury reports. So let's jump right into what the injuries are and what Zach Taylor is saying about those injuries. And I might have spoiled it a little bit earlier when I went to the graphic. But anyways, let's jump right into that. So all of this is coming from Sports Illustrated, the Bengals channel, where Zach Taylor is talking about all of the updates for Sheldon Rankins and Orlando Brown Jr. and Sheldon Rankins. So let's jump right into these injury reports. First, let's talk about Mr. Orlando Brown Jr. He's the left tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. And earlier in the season, when he was starting, before he was injured, Cincinnati had one of the best or the least QB pressures of the NFL. Our offensive line actually looked really, really good, and we were protecting Joe Burrow. Since Orlando Brown Jr. has left, it's been the opposite. Cincinnati has been one of the worst teams with QB pressures, allowing some of the most QB pressures in the NFL. And if we can get Orlando Brown Jr. back in this last stretch of games, that is huge because it would drastically drop the amount of QB pressures Joe Burrow is taking, and then that helps their run game as well. And that is huge against the Pittsburgh Steelers, considering the defensive line that they have, including TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward. And there's a lot more on that defensive line. Steelers have one of the best, if not the best, defenses in the league. And that defensive line is probably the best, or if not one of the best defensive lines in the country. And I'm just talking about Watt and Hayward. But if we add Orlando Brown Jr. back to our O-line, that would be huge. You're not going to be able to stop the Steelers defensive line the whole game. You're not going to be able to. But Orlando Brown Jr. in that lineup makes it so much more valuable to have him in the line against the Steelers. It would drastically change the performance from the sacks, from the QB pressures, to the rushes of the QB. Every stat would go significantly down if Orlando Brown Jr. is on the field. And let's see, like I showed you earlier, about what Zach Taylor was saying about Orlando Brown Jr. Let's go and see. Ooh, go. It's not going. Sorry. Boom. There we go. Zach Taylor about Orlando Brown Jr. Good. Feel good about him. So what that is saying is pretty much basically that they're feeling good about Orlando Brown Jr., that he's most likely going to be starting against the Steelers. And that is huge, huge, huge news for Cincinnati. Massive news for Cincinnati. That's exactly what we need. We need Orlando Brown Jr. back. We need Orlando Brown Jr. back to stop the QB pressures, to stop the QB rushes, to stop the sacks. Everything needs stops. And how's that stop? With Orlando Jr. back in the lineup. And he's been dealing with a knee injury, but it's looking like he is finally back, which is huge for Cincinnati. Now, going to the opposite side of the line, defensive line, Sheldon Rankins. Let's talk about what he has been doing. I'm all over the place in tech today. But anyways, Sheldon Rankins, defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. He has been out dealing with a viral illness. But it would be huge, once again, huge for Sheldon Rankins' comeback. Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks. The rest of the Bengals defense combined, none of them have a total of or more than 2 sacks. More than 2 sacks. If you add up all the sacks the Cincinnati Bengals has, excluding Trey Hendrickson's, it's still less than the amount of Trey Hendrickson sacks that he has. We have to help Trey Hendrickson. And Sheldon Rankins can be a huge part of that. He was playing pretty well, and we saw a snippet of him. Early in the season, he was hurt. Now he's been dealing with a viral illness. And if he can come back, that's huge for Cincinnati. It's absolutely huge for Cincinnati. We need help on the defensive line. We just need depth. I don't think he's going to be a game changer, but just depth in the defensive line so that we can actually rotate would be huge, especially against Najee Harris, Justin Fields if he gets in, and Russell Wilson, because they can all use their legs, especially Najee Harris and Justin Fields. We need to get as much QB pressure as we can get on Russell Wilson. And with that, Sheldon Rankins would be huge just because it adds depth, like I said. So let's see what head coach Zach Taylor had to say about Sheldon Rankins coming back to the lineup. Let's look and see what he said. We'll see. We'll take it day to day, but he wouldn't practice today. Talking about Sheldon Rankins. So it's kind of iffy. He didn't practice today. Also, sorry I didn't mention, but happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you guys had a great day. Hope you're just watching football. I'll be cheering against the Dolphins later tonight, but hope you guys had a great day so far, and I hope you continue to have a great rest of the holiday season. But happy Thanksgiving. But today, Sheldon Rankins did not practice, and it's day-to-day, like Zach Taylor said. So I'm hoping and praying for Sheldon Rankins that he gets over this illness, because that would be huge for Cincinnati just to add more depth on the defensive line. And with these two injuries, if they can come back, if they can both come back to the lineup this week, that puts Cincinnati in a great spot. It puts them in a great spot to win the first game against the Steelers this season. And that's a must-win. I know it's a cliche. It's a must-win for Cincinnati, though. They have to beat the Steelers this weekend. They have to. And with Orlando Brown Jr. coming back, with Sheldon Rankins hopefully coming back, and with the playoff dreams and hope alive coming back, or still alive and well, not well, but they're alive, all these injuries would be huge for the Cincinnati Bengals. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you liked the video. Remember to subscribe to the Bengals Digest channel for all your rumors, updates, news, everything going on with the Cincinnati Bengals is going to be found right here on the Bengals Digest channel. Like this video, and then comment what you think Orlando Brown Jr. and Sheldon Rankins bring to the Cincinnati lineup. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.